Today, we're diving into the Zangezur Corridor. Now, this is that really intensely contested route proposed to cut through Armenia's Syunik province. The whole idea is to connect Azerbaijan proper to its exclave, Nakhichevan.
Right. And the stakes are, well, they're huge. The central question we're grappling with is, does this corridor promise, a central regional integration, economic prosperity, maybe even peace? Or is it really just a destabilizing geopolitical project that threatens Armenian sovereignty and, frankly, regional security?
Exactly. And I'll be arguing that this is fundamentally a crucial economic connector.
And I'll be focusing on the risks, arguing it's primarily a vector for potentially high-stakes conflict.
Okay, so from my perspective, the economic potential here is massive. It really centers on this idea of unblocking regional transport routes, which comes straight from the 2020 tripartite ceasefire agreement. What's really crucial is that this corridor could become, well, perhaps the only viable commercial bypass around the existing Russian and Iranian-controlled routes. We're talking about potentially $100 billion in annual Central Asian trade flow. It could drastically speed up the Asia-Europe land route, along the middle corridor, that vital trade pathway, maybe by 20, even 30%. So for Azerbaijan, for Turkey, and definitely for Europe looking to diversify energy supplies, the economic benefits seem to, well, justify the risk. It gives Azerbaijan seamless access to Nakhichevan, and it strengthens Turkey's commercial links right into Central Asia. It aligns with global efforts to, diversify supply chains.
I take your point on the potential balance sheet, I do. But the costs of regional instability, I think, severely outweigh that promise of trade volume. The fundamental risk here is a severe threat to Armenian sovereignty. The demand we're seeing from Azerbaijan is for extraterritorial status. And just to clarify what that means, they're essentially demanding control, turning that slice of the admittedly quite mountainous Syunik province into a transit zone free of Armenian customs checks, free of their security controls. That risks institutionalizing a kind of winner's peace and potential loss of control for Armenia. And this regional pressure, it immediately escalates when you look just south to Iran. For Iran, this is an absolute red line. It basically severs their direct ground access to Armenia, which is vital for their Black Sea connections. They see this, perhaps understandably, as a political conspiracy designed to weaken their regional standing alongside potentially Russia and China.
I'm not totally convinced that the geography overrides the necessity here. Yes, Syunik is rugged, I grant you that. But the dedicated investment is massive. Something like, over $25 billion has already poured into Belt and Road connected infrastructure in the broader region. Modern engineering can solve challenging terrain. It does it all the time. The real goal isn't just another route. It's about maximizing speed and redundancy for this whole middle corridor initiative. And look, Prime Minister Pashinyan himself acknowledged there could be real benefits for the entire region, including Iran, if regional trade is genuinely unblocked. So to just dismiss this momentum as purely symbolic, I think that ignores the sheer scale of infrastructural commitment we're seeing.
That perspective is compelling. I see that, yet these massive economic benefits you cite, they remain highly speculative, don't they? And quite distant. The sheer cost and the time required to build high-capacity infrastructure in that narrow, difficult region means the payoff is far from immediate. So I'd argue the actual engine driving this right now is geopolitical leverage. And we must discuss the security dimension. This recent U.S. involvement specifically, that 99-year exclusive development lease, sometimes called the Trump route, well, that completely transforms the project. When critics, particularly in the region, see the potential use of, say, private military contractors securing that route, they perceive it as a kind of secret advance of NATO's security sphere deep into Eurasia. That's a huge security concern.
But wait, how does an infrastructure lease immediately equate to a military flashpoint? The whole process originates from an international agreement, the 2020 Tripartite Agreement, which explicitly called for communication links to be unblocked. Logically, achieving seamless trade requires reducing friction at the border, doesn't it? I absolutely acknowledge the sovereignty risk involved in any new transit arrangement, that's fair. But relying perpetually on Russian or Iranian transit for security, well, that creates arguably an even greater long-term dependency risk for Armenia. Economic interdependence perhaps managed through guaranteed transit fees for Armenia, could offer a path towards some kind of structural stability that unilateral dependency just cannot provide.
See, I come at it from a different angle. That demand for extraterritorial status, it fundamentally undermines the very notion of interdependence because it attempts to remove Armenian control entirely from the equation. Until Armenia is guaranteed full internal control over any route on its sovereign territory, and crucially, until the existential security concerns raised by Iran, who have repeatedly very loudly called this a red line, are structurally resolved, this proposed corridor, I believe, remains an immediate flashpoint. It's not a bridge to stable peace, not yet anyway.
Okay, well, ultimately, my core vision here remains focused on regional integration, on capitalizing on the immense, largely untapped potential of the middle corridor. The economic benefits just seem too significant to ignore, provided, and this is the key proviso, provided the security and sovereignty concerns can be structurally managed, hopefully within the framework laid out back in 2020.
And conversely, for me, this project just starkly illuminates the deep division between these goals of sort of abstract economic connectivity and the very real high-stakes geopolitical shifts the Zangezur Corridor currently represents. Until those fundamental security guarantees are firmly in place for everyone involved, it remains a point of tension, not connection.